It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right, America, good morning. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am your host this morning. We are, or you're joining us. I've been here all along, I promise you. And you are now joining us in our third segment this morning. So if you're just coming on board, glad to have you. Ton of you out there watching on our website. You can always catch us live in either our audio or video format by visiting americasvoicenow.org. And we stream both audio and video versions there. You can also find us on patriotfb.com, patriotfb, like facebook.com, and or you can find us on constitutionclub.ning.com. These are websites that carry our program. We're shortly going to be on with the CAN network as well, and they'll be carrying our audio and or video programming. And so I think you'll find that there's a lot of interest out there in these different groups that run alternative websites that give folks an opportunity to meet with other like-minded patriots within their community. So Constitution Club has a kind of a unique thing. They've created a little micro website for every one of the 33 some odd hundred counties in the country. And so you can go on there and find the county in your state that you live in, and then find or invite others to join there so that you guys have an opportunity to work communally as the original community organization, right? You'll be able to find other people that carry your same interests, maybe find somebody you can do some barter business with, maybe buy fresh meats or vegetables and things like that. Maybe work together with them on a specific project, preparations, whatever. Maybe just do some business with. You never know, right? Great thing about barter, by the way, is it throws sand in the gears and monkey wrenches the federal government and your state government, for that matter, which is the reason that it does is because you strip them of the ability to tax you for something, which is I always think is a good thing, right? Starve the beast should be one of our overreaching goals. Starve the beast. With everything that we do, every action we take, try to figure out how we can starve the beast. They're using our money to destroy us. That's the truth. Okay, if you're interested, by the way, and you'd like to catch America's Voice Now, you can do so by going to our Spreaker link, and you can, if you have a mobile phone, either a iPhone or an Android version, you can download the application from whatever application resource you have, and it's for Spreaker, Spreaker. You can download that Spreaker application, and then put a search in there for America's Voice Now, Michael Evans, and you'll find a link in there where you can get access to every program that we do and record. We record the entire program there every day. It's about 100 minutes per show, and then you can listen to it at your leisure. How cool is that, right? You can pause it if you need to, if you got to take a phone call or step out of your vehicle for some work or something along those lines. Neat way to do it. You can also call our listen line, and that phone number is area code 415-325-0725. That's 415-325-0725. Neat part of that is it's a totally free service for us to provide for you, and it's totally free for you to use. It is a long-distance call for you, likely, but it's certainly worth the ability to capture the show and listen to it in its entirety. It's radio over your telephone, and it's provided to us as a free service by Audio Now. So if you have a radio program or a blog or something like that you do, or a audio blog that you'd like to participate in that, you can go to audionow.com and find out more about it. 415-325-0725. That's the America's Voice Now listen line. Okay, so this topic we're talking about ignoring the threat that is China and how we're ignoring it at our own peril. The president this week is in Asia. And it's interesting, he's going to Asia and he's not visiting China. But the reason he's going to Asia is because of China. Hello? Not to mention the fact that, by the way, he's trying to, escape the press for a little bit and get away from the home scandals like Obamacare and, all of this, the IRS and all of these other scandals that he's created here. He's going to visit 4 different nations while he's over there. And each one of these, interestingly enough, is in some kind of a territorial dispute with China. And China is boosting its military spending in unprecedented, to use our president's favorite words, in an unprecedented fashion. I mean, guys, you have to realize something. Every nation in the world, except us, is raising our military spending. Now, I'm not saying we can't be wiser about how we spend our military money. I grant you, the Pentagon is as out of control with spending as Congress is. But to cut it and bring our nation back to pre-World War II troop levels and strip us of the ability to be competitive and or defensive is just flat out stupid. I'm going to give you an example. There's been a lot of talk over the course of the past couple of days about the equipment that the Spetsnaz troops have that are poised all over outside the boundaries of the Ukraine. The Spetsnaz is the equivalent of our special forces, and Russian, of course. And they are sporting all of this new gear, including bulletproof gear that is able to withstand the 5.56 round that is our mainstay piece of ammunition for the AR-15 or M16, whatever you want to call it, the M4, it's the correct nomenclature, for the carbines that our troops carry. The 5.56 is a very small bullet, travels at very high speed, but against this body armor that they're wearing, which is made of some newer materials, it's virtually has no effect. I mean, you could sit there and pop this guy 7, 6, 7, 5 times, and he's just going to keep coming because the bullets are bouncing off. That's, of course, scaring the pants off the Ukrainians because they don't even have those. I mean, they don't even have guns, right? And they begged us for guns, and we said no. We gave them some MREs. That was mighty white of us, wasn't it? But, the problem here is that the world is boosting their military spending, including our 2 primary archenemies, which would be China and Russia. And we are disarming. And we're disarming, unilaterally. That's the problem. I mean, it would be one thing if we were all in agreement that, if we all just back our spending down, all of our countries will do better and we have less risk of, but it's not that way at all. The military spending in China has increased at an astounding rate. And faster than even our own military experts or analysts or whatever you want to call them have been anticipating. They are also becoming extraordinarily aggressive with their neighbors. They are applying an enormous amount of pressure to Japan. In fact, they just confiscated a ship of Japan's based on claims of World War II, during World War II, reparations for damages that Japan did to China during the course of World War II. Now, I got to tell you, they're also arguing about these tiny 2 little islands or 3 little islands, a tiny little chain of islands that are full of natural resources. But it's not really that the natural resources are so important. The problem is that this is, 2 kids in the schoolyard, and it's, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, and it's become a face issue. Who's going to lose face by backing down? And if there is one thing that the Asian population is known for, it's their desire to never lose face. I got to tell you, it's not just Japan. It's South Korea, it is Malaysia, and it's also the Philippines. The Chinese are on an all-out push to subjugate and dominate everyone around them. And they are flexing their muscle, And, of course, the biggest problem with that is that when you look at all four of those countries, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines, we are either a sworn protector or an ally. Hello? Now, that puts us in an unusual position in the sense that we don't really have any skin in the game other than the fact that we've promised to protect these people, and if China flexes its muscle, we're required to step in and be the bully stopper, if you will. Not that we're not a bully of our own. That's not what I'm saying at all. But for argument's sake, it could very easily embroil us in a conflict that we would have a very, very difficult time extricating ourselves from. And we have to remember that China is really got global domination on its mind, including natural resources, because it's starving for them. They do not have, they're not free of a lot of the same problems that we have. Their corruption in their government is unbelievable. The oppression of the people is hated by them. And yet, because of the way in which their government dominates everything, they have the ability to push their country in ways that they don't worry too much about public sentiment and those kinds of things. They're also the number one trading partner that we have in the world, right? And that's a problem because, it's not just a question of this aggressive stance that they've pushed out towards Japan and South Korea and Malaysia and Philippines, but it stands to reason that, China could very easily do damage to us by, one, eliminating or tariffing different products or eliminating trade with the United States, or, even worse, they could do a wholesale dump of our bonds. They know they'd eat $1 trillion loss, but to be honest with you, what you don't realize is that our deficit with China is $300 billion a year. Really? $300 billion. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that in a 3.1 year time, they make $1 trillion on us. For them to lose $1 trillion, they've gained trillions of dollars from us over the past couple of years anyway. So it would only be a question of, and I'm sure it would hurt their own economy to have the loss of that revenue stream and to dump U.S. treasuries. But realize that by them dumping $1 trillion worth of treasuries, they would put the world into a cataclysmic collapse tailspin that would be unrecoverable. And, people say, well, you don't have to worry about that. Why would they do that? That would work against them. And Russia won't do that. Russia would never consider using a tactical nuclear weapon because it would. You're an idiot if you believe that. First and foremost, recognize something. The way we think and the philosophies we hold and the ideology we hold and the concepts of live and let live that we believe are foundational. That is not the way Putin and or Russia, I should say, and China think. It's not. First of all, China doesn't really adhere to a lot of Western thought at all. I mean, if anybody does, Russia does. But China is far removed from that. And if you think for a minute that they don't consider to themselves, we could crash and burn the entire thing and then rise from the ashes like a phoenix, you're mistaken. Why do I say that? We watched Japan do it in World War II, didn't we? You see, the truth is, we have a lot of things that China would like. We have vast natural resources, and I do mean vast. We have a lot of land that China would like. And there are a lot of arguments out there that say, this kind of stuff that's going on with the BLM and all these national parks and all of this, federal land grab stuff that's going on is actually designed as a means of securing collateral for loans to the Chinese. Now, my conspiratorially minded brain would love to run with that. I don't have any empirical evidence to back it up, and I don't want to let my wetware run away with me. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that suggests that may actually be true. And even if it's not, our fear should not be whether or not that's something our government is in collusion with them over, but whether or not they don't really care whether our government likes it or not. If there were to be an economic collapse in the United States or a grid collapse, do we have to worry about the West Coast being, speaking Mandarin and wending its way across the East Coast? Russia is far, far more removed from the United States in terms of the capability to do that. They don't have the manpower to generate that kind of an invasion force. China, on the other hand, does, ladies and gentlemen. And, if they used it as a collection maneuver to get their $1.3 trillion back, I got to tell you, that's not, everybody wants to think we live in this enlightened age. But you're dreaming if you think that tyrants don't think that way. And you're even more delusional if you believe that the tyrants who run China don't think that way. See, why is it that everybody has such a hard time believing that after 30 or 50,000 years of human existence, that suddenly in the last 30 years we've become this enlightened group that wouldn't think the way that our ancestors have for the last 49,970 years? I mean, it's ridiculous. The premise is asinine. What makes you think we're so different than we've been for the past 50,000 years? And at what point did the clock tick over and say, okay, starting today, the world is going to be a different place, and everybody's going to think with a whole new rationality. They'll never do anything that might be construed as self-destructive. Countries do that all the time. And they have all throughout known history and unknown history. Nations have dashed themselves against the wall of an enemy foolishly before. Nations have also taken over an enemy that completely ignored the threat, the risk, at their own peril, I might add. The fact that we have an enemy that we pander to and kowtow to, and yet refuse to accept or acknowledge, how dangerous it is to sleep with a tiger in the same cage, is irresponsible. Really. Well, the United States has never been invaded. So what? And that's not actually true, by the way. I mean, we have been invaded. We've been invaded by the British, and we've been invaded by the French, and quite frankly, by the Japanese during World War II. So let's not be stupid about it. And just because something hasn't happened in history before doesn't mean it can't. I mean, nobody anticipated that the Holocaust would happen in 1932. But by 1934, it was pretty much on its way. And by 1937, it was well underway. And by 1939, it was apparent to everybody. Just because things don't move at a pace that you can discern on a timeline doesn't mean that they're not moving. You can stand there and look at the clock. You really can't see the hands moving. But at some point in time, you blink your eyes and you look back up and, yep, 5 minutes have gone by. And the arm has moved. Just because you don't see it moving doesn't mean it's not. And I got to tell you, the race for natural resources, and one of the primary natural resources that everybody's ignoring is water. Did you know that we are taking water out of the Great Lakes and shipping it to China? Did you know that? You didn't. Okay. Go look it up. Don't take my word for it. I want you to go and do your own homework, and I want you to make sure that you thoroughly understand the implications of that. You see, water is the next oil, ladies and gentlemen. And unless somebody comes out with some kind of a desalination system that, makes it really, really cheap and really easy, water is going to be what wars will be fought over. And this isn't me saying this. These are, environmental people who look at the water supply that's out there and see it dwindling and see it either dwindling or polluted, and, water is going to be a problem. If the Chinese are already buying water from us, how much longer before they say, if we just went over there and took it, there isn't much they could say or do. The aggressive growth of China is something that we are ignoring at our peril. They have been not telegraphing their aggressive actions to us, flat out coming out and saying it. Chuck the dipstick Hagel, our Secretary of Defense, went over there a couple of weeks ago, and they showed him a brand new aircraft carrier, the first one they've ever designed. By the way, if you want to project power over a vast area, you need an aircraft carrier, and they've just developed and built their first one. And they looked right at him, and they said, "We will not be contained." Folks, that was a telling statement. We will not be contained. If you don't draw a conclusion from that, hello? And I'm going to tell you something else. If China ever goes through a recession, and we're seeing the early signs of that now, they're going to be dying to get a hold of new resources. And they're not going to have a whole lot to show for all that money they spent, except a lot of bristling firepower. I believe that the two greatest threats we have in the world right now are Russia and China. External threats. I'll grant you that, because the internal threat we have is actually maybe even more dangerous. But what's really important for you to recognize is that if we ever have to fight an internal threat, and I don't see any way around that almost at this point, we have to watch our flank to make sure that the tiger is not sneaking up on us. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. We'll be back in just a moment. When we come back, we're going to talk about U.S. boots are now on the ground in Poland, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. World War I and scenes and shadows from that revisited. Hang on a second. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can communicate with me directly at mike@americasvoicenow.org.